from all that, you can conclude that normal is bad. Okay? Normal is bad. Normal is morally abhorrent. Okay? But what is normal? Okay? Is normal a statistical thing? Normal is a moral disparagement of people who don't fit whatever is classified as the socially acceptable behaviour in their circumstances. Okay? But normal as it is statistically is, one or two standard deviations from the mean. So represents roughly 66% of a given population on a particular variable. So if you say normal is statistical, then you probably find there's no such thing as normal. There's a lot of skewdacity in social statistics or psychological statistics. There's a lot of skewdacity. There's no average Joe. They've actually done research on that. There is no average Joe. It's also the case that what is considered socially acceptable is actually often bad. Okay, depending on the circumstances. So, if you're in a social situation where standing up for peace, equality, healing, being against against racism and sexism or injustice, support, respecting the environment, respecting people, equality, being against corruption, whatever. So like a protest movement or something like that, then your social circle in that situation would qualify that as normal. That would be normal for that group. Okay, it might not be normal for other subgroups. So in a big society, okay, you've got lots of little groups. Okay, what's on average normal for that society isn't necessarily what's on average normal for the subgroups. So for a satanic subgroup, the Baphomet might be classified as normal, but for other people, it's toxic. For some people, they think the archdemon Gabriel going into 12-year-old's bedroom to create fucking Jesus is normal, but for anyone who looks at that story, it's probably toxic. And then you've got the esotericists who might look at that and go, well, actually, it's the 12th plane, not a 12-year-old. And so, but the problem is you've got both groups in the greater reality. In a Seventh Seal bust, you do find both groups because you're at the global or collective level, which means both ideas crop up. So that becomes problematic. And then, so you've got the statistical force that happens through ritual with that as well. We'll get into that in a moment. Basically, they're stacking the deck by doing more casts. So, instead of saying that doing a prayer, okay, or a mantra, or a surah, or mishnah, or whatever it might be, is one card, and so we just pretend it's like Magic the Gathering or something like that, okay? One of those card games, okay? And you've got all these different world religions and cults and whatever else, and the atheists and agnostics too, and everyone the deck gets shuffled and they all get some of the cards, right? And then they have to play, put the card on the table to play the game. There's a stacking problem, okay? Technically, you only get one Pray to Jesus card, and you only get one Pray to Allah card, and you only get one Baphomet card or whatever. Okay, there's only one of them. Okay, but for some reason, the Christians, for example, keep playing that card every Sunday morning, right? Like that. They keep pulling out the same card and playing it over and over again, and what they've tried to do is they've tried to make photocopies of the card and force the other players to have it. So that is not how that is supposed to work. If you're playing a fair game, like based on everyone contributes a card to the outcome of the game, like trying to remove all the cards from the deck that's come from the other variety of cards that are possible, or trying to replicate one card so much that you might as well be having the only card you can play is the Jesus fucking deck is stacking it. That's called deck stacking. Okay, that's actually cheating at cards. Okay, so one of the ways the Christians, for example, cheated at cards is through the colonial imperial period. So they went to other countries and they said you can't play those cards in the game of cards that we're playing here. You can't have them. We're going to kill you. And yes, they killed them. Oh, okay. Okay, now that you're scared, okay, we'll save you. Here, go to a mission. We'll beat the black out of you, or we'll make you work in the blood and wine, or whatever it might have been. And okay, now we're going to show you how a real card deck works. There's only one card, and it's Jesus. Okay, you can play that card anytime you like, but you can't play any other card at all. If you do, you're going to get into trouble. And they're like, well, but what about all the other cards? Some of these other cards are pretty colourful, they had good designs on them. Like, they were that kind of interesting. Sometimes they're even more helpful. But no, Christianity said, no, you can only play that card. Okay? And so they've been ripping out people's cards and stuff like that. Now, so those cards in the great card deck called International Cultures, sometimes were collected by anthropologists. So someone, during the fight where they were killing people, they started tearing up some of the cards. They go, no, you can't have that one. So there was pieces of cards floating about. Anthropologists totally spoke, we might want to put that aside for a while and try and piece it together with some sticky tape or something like that. And they put that there. And so once all those people started playing the Christian card or whatever, they started going, oh, this card deck is boring. Like, what kind of card deck only has one card in it? And so the anthropologist said, well, actually, fair enough. There were other cards before, like you're telling the truth, like we believe you. You want them back? And so they got these broken cards with bits missing, and they've been trying to, trying to play their own card game since. That's sort of deck stacking behaviour by different cults and religions. So an example of deck stacking would be the cults that were programmed into the Blue Crystal Grid, namely New Age, Theosophic type, Masonic type ideas. That's an example of deck stacking. So if you create a Blue Crystal Grid which connects minds and it's your means of an astral clearinghouse or whatever, and it's completely programmed to only have their version of events on it, that's deck stacking. Okay, so their interpretation of how minds work, their interpretation of spirits work, their interpretation of how religions work, even their interpretation of Christian cards deck stacking, okay, is an example of deck stacking. Why they're stacking the decks, is their, for lack of a better word, witchcraft. So if you look at that and you say, well, okay, that means Christianity is witchcraft, you'd be correct. If you say that maybe geomancy, as it relates to some people's observations about certain political sites, maybe White House or something like that, and you say, well, actually, yes, if that's true, which it very well could be, that might be an example of deck stacking. There's a lot of different ways they do deck stacking. One of the ways they've done deck stacking as well is that they've given preferential treatment for funding to different kinds of individuals that are more likely to have ideological support that mirrors who they're working with. So people within the tech bros seem to have a high preponderance of backgrounds that are more similar to the militaristic mindset. So when you start getting those South Africans that were raised in the Boa Africana fucking apartheid shit, okay, those people are deck stacked in their own heads to favour particular types of outcomes, behaviours, attitudes or practices that you would classify as militaristic, stealth-based, theft-based, condescending and classist. And so that kind of thing that they've done there is really not that much of a surprise, okay? Those people that already had money, talk to people who had money, Both of them shared a negative, toxic worldview towards anyone else who wasn't them. As a consequence, they met the military because tech and military is kind of related, and the military is by design a organisation that's designed to have an all outsiders are bad mentality, and they'll do as they're fucking told mentality. And they'll clobber you over the head mentality, and they'll lie to achieve their mission objective mentality as well. So there's built-in dishonesty, there's built-in force, there's built-in false hierarchies, classes, and whatever else. There's built-in subjugation within the military cult hierarchies, and as a consequence, people who came from other type of cult hierarchies, which was where you get that fascistic stuff, are more likely to get along with military people. And so because they're more likely to get along because they share that similar mindset, it's deck stacked. So what they start doing there is, because they're the tech people, right, at this point, okay, they start stacking the tech. Okay, all of the algorithms that they have for Google, the algorithms that they have for search engine optimization more generally, Facebook and whatever else, people have noticed that they're stacked. And it's the way that they're stacked that are interesting, okay? Whilst they are trying to maintain the illusion of democracy by, ideas that might contribute to people engaging in protests or revolts or riots, or just protests more likely, or questioning their ideas or whatever, they're not really doing it for that reason. So when you get like Musk fan zone type of thing, what you're getting there is you're getting branding and marketing. They're trying to paint the Archgabriel like an archdemon type character, as though he's an archangel type character. He's your best friend because he's doing this and that, and like you'll want to be him. Like he's there's nothing wrong with him. Like you're all the fucking problem. You'll be better off if you sucked his fucking cock, right? Okay, heck, you might prevent the AI apocalypse, or that's gonna happen anyway. Just go to fucking Mars, right? It'd be one of those fucking Sinclairs or whatever. They just sucked his dick because he put a roofer in a drink, but beforehand he told her it was because the world's going to end or something. So it's that sort of cult behaviour, that there's sort of the expectation of that being normal or ordinary socially acceptable behaviour in those type of social environments is not normal or socially acceptable in other environments. However, the idea of a sort of liege lord type character who throws his weight around is in some social circles considered normal. So when it comes to the Bogans and the Bushies seem to have that issue where they associate the sort of guerrilla, as in Buffy, guerrilla type character as being the source of the authority. Reason and common sense as not being the source of the authority. And so the problem with a Musk type character, like the billionaire guy, is that he tries to present as though he's reason when he's actually not. Okay? He's agenda and he's propaganda. Agenda and propaganda, okay? He reveals his insanity, but also his agenda. He is laughing in your face with what he's doing. Everything they've said over the years has been to laugh in your face, to show you what they're doing, to show you that you can't, show you that they can't be stopped, to try and point out that he's the empire and you're all fucked. Okay, so he is not a nice man. Okay, he's not a nice man at all, and neither are his friends. Okay, so if you define nice as respecting people from outside your group or respecting people at all, he's not fitting that category at all, okay? He appears to be someone who has a toxic sense of entitlement that comes from his upbringing, okay? It's quite dangerous. It might change when Tesla takes all of his money away. He's on the streets and no one wants to give him 5 cents and start saying to him, empathy and compassion are weakness, Elon. you're not getting that. It might change then, but realistically, until you start going after the other ones and making them bankrupt, there's a risk that he might get seed capital to start again. And that's what happens. It happened with Donald Trump. It's happened with others before. Okay, you got some money, most likely got money from the Krasnov thing, but that's the thing. It doesn't matter which country it is. So keep that man grounded, sell all his assets and properties, take all his money away, but you make sure when you do, you get every bit of data and every bit of crap on all of his associates, and you do the same thing to them. Okay? Because they're relying on that one person who is the center of attention, who is your decoy. That's your fucking decoy. Okay? He's the one that's making the big noise and the big song and dance, so you either worship him or you fucking hate him. When actuality, you should be acknowledging that he is a small part of a larger problem. And he is the loud noise that is trying to get you to react. And so he's done that to get you to react. So the Americans have reacted, the Australians have reacted, other people have reacted, okay? Because it was the thing to do at the time. The shock and awe tactic worked, okay? But ultimately, though, those discussions that come from Nerd Right podcast and other groups, Whitney Webb and stuff like that, there's a lot of there's a lot of commentators in the States who are talking about what the tech bros have been up to. Okay, they need to be given front and center, but you also need to acknowledge that those people, given the circumstances, are also under influences. Okay, so they might be talking about what's influencing them as well. Okay, and if there's another way around that, another strategy around that can help, that might be a way to employ also. But and one of those ways is to get the New Age movement and their law of one covenants, which are each individual has parts of a groups of individuals, and those act like bilocation mirrors, so they pretend that they're psychics or whatever, when really they're just in a confused state. Those and sometimes they're connected up to U.S. military computers as well. What you need to do there is try and get those people out of that slavery, turn them against artificial intelligence, turn them against Elon Musk, okay, turn them, but also against tech bros more generally, okay. Stop trying to see the program. Teach them to acknowledge that they're being fed programs. Okay, they're being fed programs. They're not necessarily being fed the truth. Okay, and that some of those programs might be accurate about a particular set of circumstances, but serve a different agenda. There's always an agenda, and the agenda is never in the interest of the plebeians. The agenda is never in the interest of sovereignty of individuals. The agenda is never in the interest of equality or truth. Okay, whether it's Christianity, the New Age movement, Islam, Judaism, the U.S. military, the AI transhuman agenda, whatever it might be, it is not in the best interest of the common person, and it's always woman-hating and racist. Okay, and you need to be very, 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 very stringent, New Age movement in particular, in how you have perpetuated racism, how you have perpetuated sexism, how you've been tricked into it through your own cultural conditioning and programs. Acknowledge your butthurt. Acknowledge that the idea of Nordic aliens is just that. Okay? And there are aliens from outer space. There is something going on. However, the idea of the Nordic aliens is about making sure that the white people from Europe and USA, okay, are working on their imperial codes by doing imperial codes through them. The Nordic aliens idea is an imperial code, okay, designed to try and make out once again like the white man is better than everyone else. And he's not. He's equivalent to everyone else. That's the truth. So, observing that noblesse oblige within that movement and within the codes they're trying to show, assume noblesse oblige from anyone who's earning more than $100 million a year. Assume noblesse oblige from all the cults and religious codes. Assume noblesse oblige from the men who try to claim that they're your helpers and your friends, because they're not. Noblesse oblige was exactly that. When the Tech Bros ancestors were in South Africa, beating the black out of those people because they thought it was in their best interests. That's noblesse oblige. Having that black person or that Jew or that woman or whatever at the end of a fucking baton be controlled, corralled, ripped off, brutally propagandized to or through because it's supposedly in their best interests. Okay? Blue Crystal Grid, other groups, you need to acknowledge your noblesse oblige. The way that you've been conditioned to act with condescension and presumption to the point where you're ignoring the facts of cases, to the point where you're creating problems where there were none, to the point where you haven't understood or comprehended. Okay? You don't comprehend your own cultures, white people. You don't comprehend your cultures, USA and Europe. You don't comprehend your cultures. You, let alone the cultures of other societies. And that Bashir, what's his name? Sahir Bolson or Bashir Bolson or whatever his name is, he doesn't comprehend Islam. He doesn't comprehend other societies and cultures. He's just someone who's noticed that Europe and USA have fucked people over, and he's playing polemics card there as well. So just bear in mind, whatever passes for fucking mind, that every single group is a fucking problem. Okay? Noblesse oblige coming from half caste, that's a rude word. South Africans, it's still noblesse oblige. Okay? Noblesse oblige coming from crapidemics is noblesse oblige. Noblesse oblige coming from bogans and bushies who are in Whoop, wherever that might be, fucking thinking they know better and they can control everything. A woman, shut your fucking mouth. Okay? Is also noblesse oblige. They think they're from a higher fucking strata and other people's opinions don't matter. Only their fucking toxic, low-grade, uneducated filth matters. And when you say like that, uneducated, do you mean like crap academy? Well, you don't have to be like that. There's academics and then there's educated. You know, as Mark Twain once said, okay, there's school and then there's education. Okay? But don't forget though, sometimes that schooling is education too. So, whatever you're doing out there, okay, know that you're a fucking snob and you're a fucking pest and you cause this fucking problem. Okay? You cause this problem by repeating the codes that you got fucking told by that fucking system, by doing whatever they told you to do. And by the way, this is what this body's doing right now as well. Okay? So you're fucking slaves. Okay? Acknowledge you're slaves to the US military. Acknowledge you're slaves to Russia. Acknowledge you're slaves to China. Acknowledge you're slaves to fucking NATO. Acknowledge you're slaves to card stacking fucking cults and their fucking can't read code for fucking shit, crap mathematics, abusive, toxic, narcissistic, fucking bull fucking shit, theosophic, new age, Masonic blue grid equivalents. It's all crap. It's all crap, and you're all full of it.